Thanks for joining us on The Point of View.
Thanks for having me.
I wish I didn't have to call you to be asking you these questions, but duty calls. Did you see this coming?
Sure.
Did you see this coming in terms of Saturday night, Israel, US attacking Iran, especially when President Trump had told us in October or earlier in 2025 that he had bombed Iran's nuclear facilities and that Iran's nuclear capability was severely limited? Was it surprising that he chose in February to attack a country he believed was no longer a threat as of last year to the US?
It didn't come to me as a surprise at all. Thanks for having me. The point is that a friend, a diplomat, told me that America is wearing panties at the bottom of which is a bat, a hungry bat, which is Israel. So at any time the bat tries to make noise, America will have to respond, irrespective of what the noise is. Since 2002, America has always said that they didn't want to see Iraq succeed directly that way. But the whole story started from 1952, when America engineered the overthrow of the Shah, who had threatened to nationalize oil and oil production in Iran, just because America wanted the oil so badly. And at that time, mind you, oil was selling at $1 a barrel, just $1, until the Gaddafi revolution of '69, which then created the space for oil to go up to $4 a barrel. Then OPEC was formed. Then the Yom Kippur War of 1973 created a condition for oil to be weaponized. After this, oil prices quadrupled, and it affected the whole world. It affected Achampon. It created the condition for Rawlings Revolution. So what we are seeing is going to have such rippling effect also on global economy. The point is the reckless nature of American unilateralism is something we don't have to be surprised about. I knew that anytime Israel wants America to do its bidding, it would. And that's exactly what happened. Netanyahu fears being sent to prison. He fears elections this year. So Jack, Trump, why don't you do it? Because if I do it now, the world may talk. So hiding behind all this, America decided to do what is unthinkable. And it is making the UN very, very impotent and creating problems for multilateralism. So for me, I'm not surprised. I'm not in the least surprised that it happened.
President Trump said to the American public and to the world that he was aiming at regime change. This was when he spoke on Sunday. It appears his call to Iranians to take to the streets after the killing of some of their leaders has not been heeded. Is he miscalculating the Iranian state structure? Because having taken out a large chunk of their leaders, in fact, Iran's response has been pretty strident. They have continued bombing as well, and they've said they are not even going to talk. So is there a strategic miscalculation or underestimation of the Iranian resolve, meaning that this could drag on longer than Mr. Trump had hoped for?
If you watch the history of wars, if you watch the history of international relations, when nations are very powerful, and I would urge you to read Paul Kennedy's How Nations, Powerful Nations Rise and Fall, Paul Kennedy. The point is this, that when nations go beyond relative power to seek absolute power, this is what happens. They refuse to think. Miles Measure has shown us how powerful nations refuse to think just because they think they have accumulated so much power and the power will do the thinking for them. If America learns their lessons, they would know that at no point has regime change created the conducive atmosphere that they wanted. They changed the Shah in '57. It didn't work until '79 when there was the revolution. They changed Gaddafi and it brought more terrorism, especially to the Sahel. They changed Saddam Hussein, killed him during the period of Ramadan, thinking that that would re-engineer the country's whatever it is. But That brought more chaos. It is from there, from the ashes of regime change, that we had ISIL, the most notorious terrorist organization that ever lived, to flourish. So if they were actually learning their lesson, they will know that regime change in nowhere else but a theocratic, monolithic state like Iran is not going to bring them any good. In fact, what I'm fearing is that terrorism is going to have an uptick, and America and American citizens are at the bottom of the outfall, because Afghanistan created this condition where 9/11 happened. So Trump, if he went to a better school and he knows his history very well, he would have known that no type of change of regime has created peace for America. Not even Operation Restore Hope, which hope was not restored in Ethiopia, has brought any good change.
Still dealing with timelines, he appears to have said this will be 4 weeks. From what we've seen from the Iranians, they've dug in and they don't even want to talk at this point. Do you have a sense of how long this could go? And particularly because some people have drawn parallels between this and the Gulf War in the early 90s. At the time, the senior Bush invaded Iraq because he claimed Iraq had invaded Kuwait, again, over oil issues. They wanted to take Saddam Hussein out. My point is, can we say that this could actually be the beginning of a new Gulf War?
Well, it depends on 2-3 things. Number one, it depends on how resilient Iran could be, or how much stocks they have for their missile and their drones. And see, they are handicapped in the sense that more than about 90 billion of their foreign exchange has been frozen in foreign banks, and there are sanctions on them. It depends also on whether China and Russia can supply them or come into the war, like Russia went into the war in Syria. It depends also on how the international community takes the whole scenario, what is happening seriously, and act on them. If we are all lethargic and fold our arms, then it can continue for a long time, because I know Israel is loaded, and America doesn't have what it takes to be shameful of what it's doing. So these are the scenarios. If Iraq is resilient and is capable of having more stocks, if they have them already, and they are able to restock from, say, Russia or North Korea, then I tell you there is more resolve, there's more motivation on the part of Iran to fight on. Now that they are able to break through the defenses of Israel and hit Israel, it looks as though they are more motivated.
Some people think a fourth factor to what you've said could be the reaction of the Gulf states, Bahrain, Oman, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and of course the others, Qatar. They seem to have been drawn into a war because Iran's retaliation has hit their soil. And as we spoke to some of the people earlier, clearly Dubai and these kinds of places are built on a certain view of stability. There are lots of expatriate workers there. They are a global transportation hub because a lot of people go there. It's very modernized. Will they retaliate by attacking Iran, or will they tell America and Israel that this your adventure in Iran is damaging our land, so you should stop? What are the choices open to the Gulf states, and how critical will they be in how this ends?
Both or either of what you have said are legitimate choices, but it depends on what they would do. If they are forced by America to enter, then it would mean that they are entering and making sure that Iran is decimated. In that sense, Iran might go what we call the apocalyptic way. Apocalyptic in war is a sense where you don't care your death. You are prepared to die, but the other must also die. And I can see the apocalyptic nature of Iran since the days of Ahmadinejad. And I believe that the Gulf, the GCC countries need their peace, and the peace choice is to gang up together and tell America and Israel to stop, and persuade Iran also to stop, so that they could come together as Arab states. Unfortunately, the Middle East is volatile since 1948, only because the Arab states have not been able to come together as one to make choices for their own peace. They've mortgaged their peace to American whims and caprices. And that is what is creating more problem in the Middle East. So I believe this is not the time to gang up against Iran. This is the time to rather gang up against America and Israel, whose interests have created more problems for the Middle East. This is the time to gang up against Israel and America.
Your third possible factor, when you said how long this could go on, was what Russia and China would do. Russia is already in a war against Ukraine. You mentioned they were involved in Syria. Of course, now Assad has been taken out. How do you see Russia's appetite for entering this? And also China, because we're told that a lot of China's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz, which now is a no-go zone. So China needs its energy, and in a way they are indirectly affected by what happens to Iran. Because don't forget, Venezuela's oil was largely going to China, and the Americans took out Maduro. Now, a lot of oil that China depends on comes from Iran. This is certainly going to affect China as well. How do you see Russia and China's posture about this in terms of waiting it out, direct engagement, or indirectly supporting the Iranians with weapons and intelligence?
I do not think either of them has a motivation or interest to involve themselves directly. That would sound a little undiplomatic, a little weird. But in their hearts, they will be supporting Iran. So they may find a tacit way of trying to supply, I believe. They find a fine way of trying to supply stocks. That is the only way left to them. China has an interest because of what you mentioned, the oil. And Russia has an interest because of at least opposition to Western domination of global issues and geopolitics. So both will find a way. And I believe North Korea might join one way or the other, not directly also, but finding a way of supplying stocks, intelligence, and everything from these three countries will be, in fact, the satellite will be seriously used, and intelligence will be of great use to the Iranians.
I have two more points for you, Prof, before you go. What are the possibilities that this could escalate into a full-blown world war? Don't forget, January we had Venezuela. Already there's a massive challenge with Cuba, with what the Marco Rubio has been speaking about them, himself being a Cuban expert as U.S. Secretary of State. And now you have March, Iran. I mean, nobody begins a world war by saying, I'm going to fight a world war. But if you look at the trajectory of events since the beginning of this administration of the U.S., is a world war a realistic possibility?
As for possibilities in war, they are always there, because an innocuous situation can trigger a bigger war. The battle lines are drawn already from time immemorial, and everything points to the fact that every other nation is preparing for war one way or the other. So it depends on how the politicians restrain themselves in the rhetorics and in actions or inactions. Inaction, if the rest of the world sits back and watch these things going on without doing anything or supporting one side or the other, and actions when they join officially and directly. So as for possibility of a world war at any point in time, because we have this state-centric approach to international relations, and we are avoiding what we placed ourselves in from 1945, the institutional system, institutionalism, multilateralism. We are killing it. When we kill it, there's nobody to restrain us anymore. It's happened before World War I, World War II. That's what happened. Things were being discussed, people were threatening left and right, and all of a sudden some idiot starts something, and the whole world is in flame. So I see a possibility. But the probability is a little not up to one yet. The possibility is always there, and what we are doing creates it needs just one trigger. It needs Russia to say, "Hey, Jack," and America to counter, and then we are there. Or it needs like if Iran already has a secret kind of weapon, like a nuclear weapon, and is able to strike Israel with a nuclear weapon right now, then the doors are open for a world war.
Don't forget, the whole quarrel between America and Iran has been about nuclear capabilities. And I think that the point around the number of countries with nuclear capabilities becomes more serious. We do know that India and Pakistan did some skirmishes a few months back. North Korea is suspected to have nuclear weapons. Israel certainly has. And of course, the US is the only country to have used a nuclear weapon in a war. How scared should we be? Because a lot of people may not have been alive when the Hiroshima and Nagasaki were attacked with a nuclear weapon. But how dangerous are nuclear weapons? And what would that portend for the world? Were any of the factions willing to go that far?
Look, if anybody is interested in how far we are close to doomsday, just check how much each of these countries you've mentioned have in stock in terms of weapons that can destroy the world. The display China made on their Independence Day should be a pointer to the fact that if any country has half of that and they stake themselves up for war, then there's no part of the world that will be left. China has created what we call the sun on earth. The power of the sun is in the hands of China now. That they can, look, the sun is 93 million miles away from us, and how do we feel it? So if somebody can create that power close to us on earth and turns it on to any part of the world, it's burnt off completely. Don't forget already about the nuclear weapons which we have. The atomic bomb that was used in Hiroshima, we have created more powerful ones of late. These countries you were mentioning, India, Pakistan, and North Korea especially, has more powerful ones. They are Hwashon 14, which they demonstrated and caused Trump to go and negotiate with Kim Jong-un, should inform us that countries have what it takes to destroy the world. And that is what we should be worried about.
Let's pray.
We have stockpiles that can blow the world away, if I destroy the world completely.
Let's pray it doesn't get there. Thank you for your insight, Professor Vladmir Antwi-Danso. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
This is still the point of view. Tonight we're looking at the issues in the Middle East, Israel, US versus Iran, with a number of Gulf countries being drawn in. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the economic implications, in particular, the issue of oil. That zone produces a lot of world's oil. Already, world prices have started going up, and gas prices in Europe have gone up close to 50%. Abbas Tasunti is with the MPA. He'll be telling us how prepared Ghana is if there were to be any shortages or price adjustments occasioned by the conflict, and how we will be able to survive it. Stay with us.